Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Josh Pono, thank you so much for joining us for the Mike Litton Experience. We really appreciate you, bud.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So like we talked about, everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, what we'd like to do is start at the very beginning of your life story, go all the way up to today, and then we'll talk about anything you'd like to talk about that's happening today or tomorrow, okay?
Sounds great.
Cool.
Sounds
buddy.
great.
So where were you born?
Simi Valley, California.
Okay. Did you grow up there?
I lived there till I was about 6 or 7, and then I moved around a million different times.
Okay. Why did you move a million different times?
My mom was somebody that thought that if your life was completely screwed up, you didn't need to change your choices. You just needed to change your city.
Oh, so it's all about the locale, huh?
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, I had a divorced family. My mother and my father were married and divorced when I was 2. Very, very toxic relationship. And both of them struggled with just some of the stability in their life. And so I had to go live with her sometimes. I had to go live with him sometimes. And both of them were constantly moving to find new opportunity. Yeah. And unfortunately, wherever you go, what's the saying? Wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So where did you go to high school?
A couple different places. So I'd gone to Thousand Oaks High School, which is also in Southern California. And then I ended up graduating from Conejo Valley High School, which was right down the road in Newbury Park.
Okay.
It was a continuation school.
Cool. So what was your favorite thing about high school?
None of it, which is why I figured out a way to graduate when I was 16 with a degree.
I gotcha. That's cool. So you graduate from high school. Where did you go?
After I graduated from high school, I moved to the other side of the country to live with my father. His whole family is from Rhode Island.
Okay.
And my mother had gotten married, and I was not into having a new figure of authority. They were putting some restrictions on me that were quite oppressive. And at the time, my father was back in the picture. And so things were good, and I was off to Rhode Island.
That's cool. So how long were you in Rhode Island?
About 4 years, I'd say. Yeah, 4 years.
Okay. And then after Rhode Island, where'd you go?
After Rhode Island, I moved back to California, and I came back to San Diego. He had left Rhode Island, moved to Rhode Island. I was there for a few months, finishing out a relationship with a young lady, and that had ended, and it was time for me to come back home. I'm a born and raised California kid with a couple pit stops here and there.
There you go. A little moving around though, right? So you end up in San Diego. Is it because dad's here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. East Coast is great to visit. There is definitely a culture difference, right? Yes. East Coast is much, much different than Southern California. And most of my family considered me, this dope smoking hippie from California, because I just didn't feel like it was necessary to scream at people for, making a left turn a little bit soon,
Right. I got you. Well, you live longer that way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you come out to California, you join dad. How long are you out here with dad?
I lived with him for a couple months. I'm 20 years old. I lived with him a couple months, long enough to get my feet on the ground. It was my first time being in San Diego. Never lived there before. Didn't have any friends, nothing other than him. And so 3 months in, I got my own place, and so it was a short stint.
Okay. So where was your first place in San Diego where you were by yourself?
North Park on University Avenue and Arizona Street.
Oh, I love North Park. That's a great area.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So what were you doing for a living?
At the time, I was selling doors and windows and specialty sales at Lowe's. My father was a general contractor. I worked with him full-time construction, building houses and stuff from the time I was 16 to 20. And I started working with him a little bit out here. I got tired of being hired and fired 38 times a week, and I needed some stability in my life.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to work at Lowe's. I'd worked at Lowe's. That's actually the job that I transferred from Rhode Island. That's how I got here with the money is through Lowe's.
Okay. Okay. So what was your favorite thing about working for Lowe's?
Again, not getting hired and fired,
38 times a week, right?
yeah, actually having an HR department,
Yeah.
that would protect you from verbal abuse and all that kind of stuff. And also, it was my first opportunity to really get into an official sales job where my rewards and efforts from helping and serving people, I was really good at selling doors and windows because I had installed them, right? And so when you go
Right.
into Lowe's, you get these people that never done the job, didn't know what they were doing. And when people could come in, not only could I talk about the products and what was important about them, but I could also talk about the installation and why this product was easier to install, et cetera. And so by giving people phenomenal service, they're already there to buy. It's an order taking type of job.
Right.
I was able to excel and set records and do that kind of stuff, and then they still paid those people commission. So the ability to go out and make more money than I ever made by helping people and being valued, that was really cool. I was looking for a place where they really valued me because
cool.
of my drive and my knowledge. And so I was a valued member of the community till I wasn't.
That's cool, man. So what made you leave Lowe's?
They cut my commission. I'm not this was my first real run-in with corporate America. Also, great company, got nothing but things to say. But one of the managers had come in and I'd been working on this sale that was the largest sale that I had ever worked on, and it was going to be about a $2,100 commission. Our average commission normally was like about $300. I had worked on endlessly. I mean, this was an order that it took me probably 10 hours it was a custom order. Because of my speed and efficiency, that was 10 hours. That was fast. Everybody else would have taken 20, 30, 40. I put all this work into it. I had called the vendors. I had already pre-negotiated discounts so that anytime we discounted product at Lowe's, we would go from making 3% commission all the way down to 0.25% commission just by discounting 5 or 10%. So I'd already negotiated a bunch of stuff. The sales rep or the client had come in. They'd changed the order 3, 4, 5 times. I just kept doing it. On the 5th time, they had dropped the ball and sent me in new measurements. And so rather than carve out my whole day and mess up all my sales, I had said, hey, I'll get to that tomorrow. Well, they were impatient, even though they had changed the order a million times on me. They came in an hour before my shift. The manager, being weak and not understanding the value of the time I put in, had tried to hand the deal off to somebody else. I walked in, somebody's at my desk doing my deal to change one window. That one window to push the order through that he tried to give away took that sales rep 2 hours just to do that one window. Keep in mind, I said the whole 20, 30, 50 window order, whatever it was
right.
a total of 10 hours.
Right.
One window changed 2 hours. And so I walked in, I'm like, what's going on here? They're like, well, you dropped the ball. I said, oh, I dropped the ball, right?
Yeah.
And that was their assumption. And so they had then given additional discount, not knowing the file. And so my $2,000 sale went down to about $300. And then at the end of the day, I called the manager aside and said, hey, we got to talk, man. You just cost me a bunch of money because you didn't know what you were doing. He was the new manager that they had promoted. He didn't have any experience. And he said, well, if you would have done your job, I wouldn't have had to. And so at that point I said, okay, time for, and so for the next 3 or 4 months, I became probably the worst employee and kind of rode my time out. And then I found something better. So
what was the thing that you found that was better?
After that, I went and sold tools. I went and sold tools because they were commissioning and I had been recruited. One of the owners of this company came in. They gave me a problem sale. He was looking for $1,000 indoors. He was the owner of this very prestigious tool company at the time, Vegas, San Diego, I want to say Utah as well. And I ended up upselling him to a $7,000 door. And so he said, hey, do you want a job? And at the time, he said, I'll pay you more money and I'll give you more freedom and flexibility. I said, let's go. I'm in. I went and interviewed. They gave me the job and I said, see ya.
So what was it about the tool job that worked for you?
I was buying time.
Yeah.
I went there
Unfortunately, it was found out that the owner, he really loved me. He saw something, he saw himself in me, and he wanted to fast track me. And I went to his company, I was outselling everybody, and I was the new guy and the owner's pet and all that stuff. And so within weeks, it had come out that I made more money as an hourly sales guy than my manager's manager. And once that happened, the whole environment turned toxic. I was buying some time. And so I reverted back to old habits. I called Pops. He hadn't fired me in a long time. So I guess he had changed. And I said, hey, man, I'm back in action. He said, come work with me. And I did.
So you worked with Dad for how long?
Oh, it wasn't long. Worked with Dad for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months. This is also leading into like 2007, 8 crash time. Yeah. And I was working for him for a little while, and before you know it, we were back into the same old pattern.
Yeah. So 2007, 2008 hits. How does that affect you?
He was always a referral only guy. I mean, listen, I can say a lot of things about my father, but he was a master at his craft. He was a perfectionist. He's part of the reason why I have the drive and the work ethic that I do. You weren't full-time, and you couldn't say you're full-time until you worked 60 hours. You couldn't say you're a hard worker till 80, and 100 was a man's job, man's work. And so for the first, I had hit this point where I knew it was time to go and I needed something. And so, but he was always, everybody was referral, right? He did such a good job with the client. The client's always right. Give him a great deal, stand by your work and honor it. So even though it was crazy, we had relationships. And so he had work. He had a few developers that were still, they were capitalizing on the market. They were investing. So we were good from a workflow standpoint.
Gotcha. That's cool. So you leave Dad at some point and you go to work where?
I couldn't find a job for the first time ever, right? So again, it's in the crash, and I've always been a hard worker.
It was a tough time, man.
It's funny. I had a boss one time say, careful, Josh, we might fire you. And he's kind of joking. I'm like, do you know how many times I've been fired? You got to threaten me with something I care about, right? I'm experienced, man. I know how to tolerate being fired. It does not hurt my feelings.
Something that's going to intimidate me, right?
Yeah, I've been fired 48 times, man. I'm experienced. Like
38 times in 1 week.
And it was funny because I looked at him, I said, do you know how valuable you've made me? I'll make one call and get 3 jobs, man. Figure that out. Right. And so I couldn't find a job though for the first time. It was 2009. And I'd always had a vision from the time I was 13. I come from very humble beginnings. My mother was 19 when she had me. My father was 21. They both came from some really, really challenging upbringing, and they were just kids trying to make their way, and they battled with addiction and whatnot. And so, I was looking for something different, but at the same time, my grandfather, he was by marriage, he used to come in, and he was an entrepreneur. He was a original starter of like beach volleyball back in Santa Monica back in the day in the 60s. He had a hot dog stand. He used to have a milk business. He became a casino guy that was insecure. Like he's a day trader. He bought real estate, and he used to come grab me out of these toxic environments and take me to Palm Springs where he had stuff. And I'm going somewhere with this. And he told me when I was like 13 years old, he was like, Josh, you've got to get into real estate. That's your ticket out. He's like, there's 3 reasons why. 1, people will never stop making babies because it feels good. 2, they're always going to need a place to live. And 3, the earth isn't getting bigger. And so the best part about real estate is you put your money in there, you let it grow, and then you can retire early and live like me. You can have a different life. And from that point on, it was like, okay, that's my path. Now, fast forward to this moment we're back now. I can't find a job. And I'm actually in Palm Springs with them trying to regroup. I'm depressed. I'm in this area. And I get this random phone call on January 31st. I forget which year. I think it was like 2008, January 31st. And this company by the name of Z57 calls me. And they're a website real estate marketing company. They only sell websites, bad websites, to real estate agents. Right. It's in the middle of the crash. And I'm ignorant. I don't even know what that means. Right. Like you sell real estate websites. Never was it like, that might be tough. Right. Yeah. Like, and so they call me up on January 31st. They say, hey, we had an opening for our January class. I'm sorry, December 31st. We had an opening on our January class. Come in for an interview. I'm like, dude, it's January 31st. I'd have to literally leave now, drive 3 hours, get there, come back. Like I'm in the middle of hanging out with my grandparents. They're like, well, if you don't come now, you can't have the job and you'll be out of it. You can maybe go for February. So I drive all the way down there. I sit in front of him and it's like Sunday afternoon. right? I've just driven 2.5 hours. And he's like, so tell me why you want the job. I'm like, dude, I just left a family get together, drove 2.5 hours to be here to start work tomorrow and cut my vacation short. If that doesn't say I want the job, I don't know what does.
Right.
And I said, by the way, where'd you find me? He goes, you applied. I said, I never applied to the job. And real Mike, I never applied to that job. And I don't know how they found me, but it was real estate. And it was like, huh. And I said, well, I need a job. It's $12 an hour. It's better than nothing. And it's real estate. I've always had this subconscious real estate thing.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. And that's where I went.
That's cool, man. So you sold websites for Z57.
Yeah. Yeah. They even made a website about me. Agents, Z57 stopped calling and they talk. I worked my way up to a coach, and then I was the trainer. So every month, I was there for almost 4 years, and every month they bring in 20 new people that were mortgage lenders that, after the crash needed a job. I mean, we would hire people that fresh out of jail. Like it was a churn and burn, keep them in, 100 sales reps on the floor, very much a boiler room style, phenomenal sales training, phenomenal nationwide, accredited sales training. The leadership there came from the Cutco background, just a phenomenal sales program. And they had a website, this trainer teaches them hang up or sign up. And I was laughing. I was like, ooh, that's me.
Right.
So I was an enemy to agents for a little while, even though what made me good at that job is I could teach them what made me good, just like back at doors and windows. I knew how to take the product and make it work. And so with agents, I learned, hey man, you're doing this mailer, you're doing this flyer.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.